So in a society that doesn't like marriage, how do you fight for your marriage? Because there's nothing in society, if you're married, nothing in society is encouraging you to stay married. Everything around you is encouraging you to walk out. So how do you fight for your marriage? Well, as I said, Kay and I have been married 39 years, so I thought I'd ask her to come and help us. Would you give a warm welcome to my best friend? Now, we know that life is seasonal. You go through different seasons, you go through them over and over and over. So, talk to us, babe, about the seasons of marriage. And let's just share with them. You know, we've gone through a lot of seasons, ups and downs, good times, bad times, a lot of pain, a lot of joy. And I want to spare some people some pain.
Yeah. Well, we want to use the metaphor of seasons to talk about marriage because, as Rick said, you know, marriage doesn't stay the same, it changes.
Yeah.
And so we're going to use spring to represent the time when maybe your marriage is super busy. You're both like, you know, you're like ships passing in the night. It's just a super intense time of busyness. We're going to use summer to talk about, you know, it's the good stage, it's gravy. I mean, everything is going well. Fall, we're going to use to talk about when there's change going on, and then winter when, you know, the bottom falls out, when everything kind of falls apart. When we had premarital counseling before we got married, we were told that we were going to struggle in 5 areas: communication, sex, in-laws, parenting, and money. And we were 5 for 5 on our honeymoon.
On the honeymoon, did you hear that?
Yeah, it was a, let's just say it was an inauspicious beginning.
You know, we've been married 39 years. I say 36 great years.
35, maybe. Give or take a few months.
Yeah, maybe a few, yeah.
So we really did want to just talk to you about the seasons that we've gone through in these years that every relationship is going to go through. So spring is the season of busyness.
Yeah.
And
well, busyness, I actually think that busyness is the #1 destroyer of marriages. We get too busy for each other. You don't have time to talk, you don't have time to think, you don't have time for sex, you don't have time to just be together because you're so busy going around in different places. And see, what happens is, women, you need to understand guys. Guys are men on a mission. They're goal focused. And so at one stage in a guy's life, he's going, I gotta find me a woman. And so he starts searching and prowling around. He's a man on a mission. When he finds that woman, now he hones in and he's locked in. He will do whatever it takes to win her. And he's gonna woo her. And he'll do all kinds of stuff that he doesn't like to do, like go to the opera and talk for 2 hours on the phone, and something that no man would normally do. You know, these kind of things during the dating period, because he's a man on a mission. Once she says yes, they're married, he's gone, okay, my bucket list, mission accomplished, checking that off. Now I gotta go to the next one, which is, now I gotta provide, because we're probably gonna have a family, we gotta make some money. And so all of his attention goes over to finding a job or whatever. And his wife goes,
bait and switch.
Yeah, bait and switch. Where did that guy go? You know, it's just like 2 different characters.
Yeah.
So how do we help people? Obviously, we have very busy lives.
Well, I think what happens where it gets messy is that there's always periods of time that are super busy, and we trick ourselves into thinking, oh, this is only going to last for a short time.
Right.
You know, in 3 months, this is going to ease up. Our schedules are going to be different. Things are going to look different than they are right now. If we can just hang on for this amount of time, we won't be as busy. The problem is that those kinds of seasons turn into patterns. Yeah. And before you know it, it's a lifestyle. It's a pattern. It's a habit of living an incredibly busy life when you don't have time for the people and the person that means the most to you.
So there's a couple things that we've done, and these would be good tips or suggestions for when you're in the spring of life, when you're really, really busy. And by the way, when you have preschoolers, that's the ultimate spring because you're super, super busy. One of them is make time for fun. One of the phrases Kay and I have had for like 39 years is divert daily, withdraw weekly, and abandon annually. Divert daily means every day you do something fun. Find something fun to do, okay? Second is withdraw weekly. Take a weekly day off, and then abandon annually, have an annual vacation. Talk about our day off.
Well, yeah, our day off. Obviously, when he's preaching, weekends are not fun. Well, they're fun. He likes his job, but it's not a time of relaxation. It's work for him.
Yeah.
So then by Mondays, he's wiped out. It has been for all the years that he's been a pastor here. So Mondays became our regular day off. So even no matter how busy we are, we've made sure we took a day off. And then we always take a vacation. Sometimes you can say, well, if you're married and you think, how long has it been since we've taken a vacation? Couples can get in a rut to where either finances get in the way or literally the schedule. There just isn't time to carve out a vacation. And we've been intentional about that, even if it was a staycation. Maybe money has been tight at different times. Even if you just stay home and watch Netflix and, eat cereal and milk. Whatever. It's just the intentionality of planning a time.
Yeah.
And I would say that's probably the most...
Intentionality, that's a big deal.
Yeah, it's intentional in busy seasons, in that spring, of just looking for ways. It's like turn off the phone, turn off the computer, look at each other's eyes. It may not be the 2 hours like it was when you were dating, but at least take that
Sit
time
close.
to intentionally focus and connect with each other.
Well, you have to make time in dating. You make time to go on dates. When you get married, you need to date your mate. The problem is, a lot of people stop dating once they get married. You need to continue. What you did to get married is what you must continue to do the rest of your life to stay married. I say it like this. If there were more courting in marriage, then there'd be fewer marriages in court. And so date your mate and do fun things and do creative things and just have fun together.
Well, the goal is to be one. He read that scripture that when God made them male and female, and they were one. And so from the minute you say yes, the minute that you commit yourself in marriage, in God's eyes, you are one. And so the whole goal of your relationship is to continue to build that oneness and that unity. And in that season of extreme busyness, that can get lost. And so to ask yourself the question, okay, so if I decide to do this, or if I take this commitment, will that be something that builds unity and oneness in our relationship, or is that gonna work against unity and oneness? It's trying to live out what God has said marriage is to be, which is that oneness, that harmony, that one mind, one body, one soul, one heart.
Okay, so here's in the first season, the busy season, here's my assignment. If you're married, and I don't care how busy you are, go out on a date this week, okay? I am commanding you as your pastor to go out on a date this week if you're married.
You gonna pay for it?
No.
Oh, well, shucks,
Absolutely
too bad.
not.
Sorry, I tried.
All right, talk to us about the second season.
Okay, so the second season that we've observed in our relationship and talking to thousands of couples through all these years is summer. And that would be, summer, doesn't everybody love summer? It represents, man, things are great. Everybody looks forward all year to summer season. So there are times and periods in your relationship in which really everything is going great. Your your health is good, maybe you've got enough money, you're not struggling with finances, you're getting along great, and it just feels like summer is this easy breezy time. The unfortunate thing is, as we've discovered, is that those periods of time seem to be very small.
Yeah, they don't last very long.
They don't
Summer's
last
not as
very
long a
long.
season as some of the
There's
others.
always something that interrupts that. But when you're in one of those seasons of that just kind of easy breezy time, we say that's the time to invest in your relationship.
Right,
that's the time to plant. That's the time to store up against.
Bank it.
Would you like to talk?
I like to interrupt. You're watching our marriage in action right here.
This is an ongoing problem, young man. And then I forget what I'm saying.
Bank the relationships.
Yes.
Bank the good times.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
I'm trying. Is to don't wait for the wheels to fall off the bus before you decide to get help. So funny.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, so his idea of car maintenance is when the engine falls out on the toll road, that's the time to have the car checked. But that's the way people approach their relationships and marriage sometimes. It's like, well, when things get, right now, okay, that's kind of bad, but maybe it'll get better, or yeah, that kind of is annoying, but so instead of waiting till things get horrendous in this good season of marriage, go ahead and invest in like some marriage counseling, some marriage seminars, some books. Now you can talk.
Well, let me say that about Thank you, a great one. I really like what Kay just said about when things are going good, that's the time to do the maintenance, to do the marriage tune-up, get marriage counseling while it's good. As a pastor who used to do marriage counseling, I can't tell you how many guys who've come to me who their wife for years begged them to get marriage counseling. And they said, no, I'm not going, I'm not going, I'm not going. And then their wife walked out the door and all of a sudden they're all ears and goes, I'm ready for counseling. Sorry, buddy, it's too late. You waited too late. You get counseling before you need it, in the good times. Now, in a relationship, no relationship stands still. You're always either moving closer together or you're moving apart. There is no relationship that stands still. It doesn't just stagnate. So if you're not growing closer together intentionally, you're growing apart. Mm-hmm. You're growing apart. Now, over the years, Kay and I have got counseling many times. When we hit a bump in the road, we go get some.
Sorry. I was just thinking of all the times that
and we've got help. Every time we get a bump, we go get some help. I'll never forget the very first time we got counseling, which was in the first year of our marriage. And my salary was $800 a month. And we went to counseling, marriage counseling, and the counseling bill was $100 a week. So half of my salary is going to marriage counseling. And when people say, I can't afford counseling, I'm going, you can't not afford it. How much is your marriage worth to you? How much is your happiness worth? I'm so glad, I racked up a $1,500 counseling bill on our MasterCard, our first year of marriage. Took me 2.5 years to pay it off. I look back because that's the best $1,500 I ever spent. In fact, I've often thought about doing a commercial for MasterCard said, MasterCard saved my marriage. Okay? A saved marriage, priceless. Because people say, well, I can't afford it. I would spend $1 million for what I've got today.
Hand it over.
She's my best friend.
I love you.
She's and I'm so glad we did not give up when there were so many opportunities to do so. So that idea of invest in the good times.
Yeah, that's the time to send your roots deep, both into the Lord and into your relationship. You need to, because the harder times are gonna come. They're inevitable, they're gonna come.
Right.
So if you can send your roots down, if you can build really solid into your relationship in those times when things are going better, it's a really wise decision.
One other thing I'm gonna say here. I think a lot of marriages die from boredom. People just get bored with each other. And so you've got to keep it creative. You've got to do fun things, and that's a good time to invest creative things. I remember Kay knows that I like hot sauce. I've collected over 350 different kinds of bottles of hot sauce from around the world. I don't just believe in hell, I eat it. Okay?
And then I said, and then he burps it.
Burps it. Yeah. Well, it's hot going in.
No, that is not what I said. That is not what I said.
And it's hot. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, so Kay knows. Kay knows that I love hot sauce. One day she walks in. We're in a busy time. Things are going on. She walks in, she plops down 2 airline tickets in front of me. I go, what's this? She says, we're going to Albuquerque, New Mexico. I go, what's there? She goes, the International Convention of Hot Sauce. I'm going, what a woman! That is a godly woman. Blessed art thou among many.
It was fun. It was fun.
Until you ate Dave's Insanity sauce.
Yeah, I didn't believe him
that
it was that hot. Yeah, but that was fun. Okay, so spring is when things are really busy and you have to be intentional about creating time and connection for the relationship. Summer is when, those rare short periods of time when things are just going so well and you need to bank and invest for the future. And then fall is a season of change. And 2 ways we want to talk about change. Change when they're good changes, and then change when it's not so good. So change when it's good is maybe you've moved. There's a major move. Maybe there's a new baby. Maybe you've just gotten married. Maybe you've taken on a new job. So there's this major life changes, and it requires such adjustment. And that can create a lot of stress, but yet it's really good. Sometimes we fight against change because it disrupts our lives, and yet if we can look at it through the lens of, okay, this may be difficult right now, but in the long run, I am going to be so glad that we made this move, or we took that job, or we made that decision to buy that house instead of this. All of that change can actually be really good for you, and so I would just tell you, in those seasons of change, be willing to adjust. Don't be too stressed about it. Just be willing to adjust.
Tell me about our 5-second rule.
Yeah, well, we have this rule that I would say has revolutionized our communication, and it is, love this idea for 5 seconds. One of us will propose an idea about something that we think might change, or just something that we think is a great idea, but to just preface it with saying, just love this idea for 5 seconds. Because in that 5 seconds, while you might, if you don't preface it that way, there could be this, oh, no, I don't want to do that. Or no,
giving you all the reasons why it's not going to work.
It's not going to work. But if you have to pause in those 5 seconds and really just hear what the other person is saying, you may find that what they're suggesting, this could be a really good thing.
And actually change, if your marriage is going to last like 39 years, you're going to go through enormous amounts of change. We're not the same people we were when we got married. And you're not going to be, if you stay with the same person for life, you grow, and you don't stay the same. So your marriage will succeed or fail by your ability to learn how to deal with change. And to realize that change can be a good thing. It can be a bad thing, but it can be a good thing, and it can keep you from boredom. But let's talk about, what about the kind of change, the things that don't change in life, like your personality? That's not going to change.
Yeah, when you kind of realize, you look over at each other and go, you ain't ever going to change, are you? And believe me, every relationship hits those moments, those kind of stuck places where you realize that the person that you are married to has some habits that drive you absolutely insane, and the likelihood that will ever change is remote and dim. And so then what are you going to do about it? How do you deal with it when the person that's my line, thank you.
It is.
Yes, we do drive each other crazy, sincerely, honestly.
And here's the thing, we've been married 39 years. And
you hesitated. Didn't he? He hesitated.
Even today, we still see things totally different. This last week, we were working on remodeling a thing in our house up high. And Kay was looking at a little architectural feature, and I was looking at it, and I was thinking it was too big, and she was thinking it was too small. And she says, well, come over here and look at it from mine. So I walk over, and I look at it, and I said, well, come over here and look at it from mine. And we still didn't agree on it. She goes, well, we just see things differently. And I said, well, that's a first.
Yeah, it's like all the time.
39 years later, we're still seeing things differently. Now, how do you deal with those things? Well, there are 3 or 4 suggestions. Let me give them to you. One of them is, stop using incompatibility as an excuse. People say, well, we're just incompatible, so we're going to divorce. I don't even believe in that term. I think the word incompatibility is a word made up by divorce attorneys to justify divorce. The truth is, you're not compatible with anybody. You will never meet anybody that you are compatible with, because nobody agrees with everything you do. So no matter who you're married, you're incompatible. There's another word for incompatibility: selfishness. And when people say we're incompatible, I have 2 words for you: grow up. Because given the right situation, if you choose to love, you can fall in love with anybody and stay in love with anybody. Now, that's another thing that's important, is to realize that love is a choice. And that people think love is a feeling. Love is not a feeling. Love is a choice. Love creates feelings. Love creates great feelings. Baby, oh baby, oh baby. Great feelings. Love creates feelings.
Do you know how silly that sounds?
Yeah. You know?
Keep going.
And so even the terminology we use, we say, I fell in love, like it's a ditch. I was just walking down the street one day and I, kaboom, fell in love. No, you didn't fall. You chose to fall in love. Now, listen, you cannot control your attractions, but you can control your actions. And love is a choice. If it were a feeling, God could not command it, because you can't command a feeling. It's like telling a little kid who's crying, I command you to be happy. I'm trying, Daddy. You can't command a feeling, but you can command an action. And love is a choice. And so when people say, well, we just fell out of love. Well, you chose to fall out of love. It's not like something happened to you. We just have. No, you chose to stop doing the things that made you be in love, made you fall in love. And so in the changes of life, you got to make choices.
Boy, you just kind of went all over the place with that. So what I was saying
and what I was continuing to say, no.
About differences is, you have heard Rick say this, and we'll say it again, we are so different.
Yeah.
I mean, if there was a category of so different, we would fall into the so different category. In every way, we are different. And in a relationship, that's one of the things that causes people to lose some of the great loving feelings they have, is because they don't know what to do with the differences. I mean, he's an extrovert, I'm an introvert. He is spontaneous and impulsive, and I am a planner. He's big picture, I am detail. I mean, there's been this piece of fuzz on your shirt that I have meant to take off this entire...
I don't see it.
Well, I know, but it's back here, so it's been driving me, it's been bugging me this whole time. He exaggerates. He exaggerates, and I'm very precise. You know,
I'm Tigger.
Eeyore.
She's the Eeyore.
Yeah, he's
That's
a
exactly
dreamer.
right.
I'm a pragmatist. I mean, It is a wonder that we have made it 39 years because of our differences. But what that has required from us is acceptance. Let me give you an example. For the longest time, we had this running argument. In fact, it was a daily argument. He was raised in a family that never locked the doors. They were brought up in the country. They didn't lock doors.
Never.
I mean, it was just,
Never.
Didn't even think about it. I was raised in a family, the minute the sun goes down, you turn on the 300-watt Klieg lights and put the water in the moat, let the alligators out. I mean, it's just...
Turn on the electric barb fence.
Very safety-conscious home. So we would go to bed at night, and I would, we'd be snuggling into bed, and I would say, did you remember to lock the doors? And he would almost inevitably go, no. And I'd go, well, would you go lock it? And he'd go, why did you wait until we're going to bed to ask me?
You wait until my head is on the pillow.
Well,
and then say, did you do the... Ladies. Never start a conversation the moment your husband's head is down on the pillow.
But
the foremost fear word by a husband is, we need to talk.
I didn't say we need to talk. I said, did you lock the door?
Yeah, but you waited until my head was down on the pillow.
Okay, but how many nights do you think that we needed to lock the door? Only 365 out of every year. I mean, this isn't like it was a rare thing. Okay, so sometimes very grumpily and not happy, he would go down.
Grumpy.
Yeah, really grumpy. He would go down and lock the doors and then come stomping back up to bed. And then he's going to bed mad, I'm going to bed mad. And then I would start to say, after a few years, I would start to say, did you lock the doors? And he would say yes. And I'd know he was lying. And so I got in the habit of going downstairs, and maybe 2 out of the 3 doors were locked. Not all 3, but 2 out of the 3, as though somehow that was going to be okay. And it's embarrassing to tell you.
2 out of 3, that's pretty good, isn't it?
It was not enough.
No.
So I finally realized, I had this revelation, this moment of, he's not going to change. He's never, ever going to think that locking the door is important. He's never going to think that. So I finally decided, I had the simplest solution, and it was like, can't believe I didn't think of that. I locked the doors myself. I mean,
why didn't we do this 30 years ago?
I know.
Yeah.
I don't know why it took us so long to come up with that solution. But it was realizing that the differences could either continue to be this stuck place for us, and we could argue and be mad at each other all the time over something so simple, or I could stop demanding that he do it the way I wanted him to do it, even though I thought he should, but he wasn't going to. So the simplest thing was just, great, I lock the doors. Now he goes to bed happy, I go to bed happy. It's great. So where in your relationship are you doing that exact same thing? It may not be about locking a door, but you guys are locked into this mortal combat over something that probably doesn't matter a hill of beans, but you're trying to die on that hill day after day after day. Let it go. All right, anybody want to sing a chorus?
Let's sing it together.
Yeah.
That's right.
Let it go.
Let it go.
Okay. So you get the point?
Yeah, here's the idea. See, when you're in the dating period of life, you look your best, you act your best, you smell your best in the dating. After you get married, you're going to discover that there are parts to that person you don't like. You still love the good parts, but you don't, there's some parts you don't
that
like.
reminds me, sorry.
No,
this is important.
we're not going on another one now. Go ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so we made two big mistakes when we first got married. The first was we didn't know each other. That's a whole nother story, but we really
I knew enough. I knew what you looked like.
It obviously wasn't enough to get us through all the rough parts. So anyway, so we didn't know each other. That was a big mistake.
Yeah.
Second thing was I read way too many romance novels. And so I, as a young teenager, had all these visions of what I thought, you know, the man on the white horse was supposed to be. And the problem is it got in the way of me loving the real man, who is spectacular. But because I was expecting and had this whole vision of this dime store novel kind of guy. Yeah. I was like, what did I say? Yeah,
No, you know, here, let me summarize this for you. She thought she was getting Fabio. She got Flabio. And I just can't twirl my hair anymore.
He used to have hair as long as I do.
When we got married, my hair was as long as Kay's, and I could do this, but...
Little John Lennon glasses, he was so cute.
Yeah, here's the point. Let me just say this. You got to decide whether you're going to love somebody in spite of themselves. Because there are things, when you get married, about your mate that are never going to change, no matter how much. And you got to decide, am I going to force them to change before I love them? That's not real love. You have to accept things that are real when you're not always dealing with the ideal. And a great marriage, and Kay and I have a great marriage, is the union of two great forgivers. A great marriage is the union of two great forgivers. That's how you have a great marriage.
We've decided that we're gonna be happily incompatible.
Yeah.
For the rest of our lives. Yeah. We will never be completely compatible. We are just too different. Too different. Yeah. But we are really content to be happily incompatible.
Every couple has a song, and ours is a song from the 80s, I guess it is. I don't remember.
A long time ago.
I don't know. See, you know, Huey Lewis and News is called Happy to Be Stuck With You. And in that song, it says, you know, we thought about giving up and we went through all these tough times, but he goes, we got the same address, we might as well just hang out together. Yeah. You know, same phone,
same phone number,
friends.
same address, we might as well stay.
So we're happy
to be stuck together. It really is.
Yeah.
Okay, so spring, busy, be intentional. Summer, bank for the future. Fall, if there's good changes, learn to adjust and look for the positives in it. When you run into the places where there's not gonna be a change, then that's an opportunity to grow in acceptance and in deciding that you're going to be happily incompatible. And then there's the season of winter. And if you are if you're married for any length of time, you're going to go through a winter, and that's a season of loss. That's a season of loss and grief. It could be anywhere from an affair that happens in your marriage, a betrayal, there's a death, there's a bankruptcy, cancer.
Yeah.
I've gone through cancer twice. There could be mental illness. There could be, you know, a child of yours goes to jail, goes to prison, maybe just actually breaks your heart.
Any kind of crisis.
In our case, you all know that we are actually in the winter season in our marriage because of Matthew's death 19 months ago. And we have seen the reality of the benefit of all the years that we have banked toward this time. All the roots that we sent down deep into our love and into God, so that when the bottom fell out, when for us our son took his life and we faced the worst day of our lives, that we could survive. When Matthew was so ill, he was mentally ill since he was a little boy, and it got worse and worse. And because we're different, we approached him differently. And there were some times I thought we should handle him this way, and there were times that Rick thought that we should handle him this way, and we were often at polar opposites of how to respond. And I used to be afraid that if Matthew did take his life someday, as I was always worried he would, that we would approach grieving differently as well, and that somehow it would tear us apart. Not divorce. I mean, we settled that. It wasn't about divorce, but that somehow in our grieving and handling it differently, that it would pull us apart and our intimacy would be destroyed and things would never be the same again. But I can really tell you truthfully, honestly, that Rick and I are closer today than we were even 19 months ago. That this deep, tragic, dark, cold season in our lives and in our marriage we are closer than we've ever been. There's nobody on the planet that knows what it's like to be Matthew's parent besides Rick. There's no one else that understands my grief more deeply than Rick. And so he's the person I want to be with, and vice versa. Nobody understands his grief the way that I do, and so it has drawn us closer.
Yeah, I would not have wanted to go through all this the last 19 months by myself. That's one of the benefits of marriage, is it takes you, you're gonna have crises in life whether you get married or not. I'd rather go through it with a support system, with somebody who you are happily incompatible with, but you agree that our love is stronger. We don't fix the blame, we fix the problem. That's one of the key things to do. And one of the things that we decided, long before any of the crises in our marriage happened, was divorce was just not an option. We took our vow to God seriously. And when we got married and we signed that wedding license, we took a vow before God and said, divorce is not an option. We said, we closed the escape hatch, we locked it, we double locked it, and we threw away the key. And so that forced us to work things out. So people say, have you ever considered divorce in 39 years of marriage? No. Murder, yes, but divorce, no. No.
But I have to tell you, there have been, I can speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for Rick, but I can tell you that there have been some moments that we have had big enough arguments, big enough fights, big enough disagreements, said some things to each other that were terrible, that were cruel, that were mean, that were not kind, and sometimes the hurt and the wound from some of those things. There have been some moments in which I thought it would be so much easier. I'm done. I'm tired of forgiving. I don't want to forgive anymore. I don't want to keep doing this. Honestly, some moments when it's like, I don't even want to breathe the same air you're breathing.
Especially after garlic.
Or that hot sauce. But I'm just being really honest with you to tell you that is where we are. We're not trying to pretend like, we just occasionally in 39 years have had a few arguments. No, we've really struggled. There's been a lot of blood.
For our marriage.
There's been a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And you might think, well, why would I want to even go through it if it's that difficult? If it's really blood, sweat, and tears, partially because we are so different. Why would I want to even go through that? And I would just tell you, it's because it's worth it. It's because of the intimacy. We talk about the tunnel of chaos. And Rick mentions this a lot. You'll probably want to go into this. But that tunnel of chaos, the couples who go through the tunnel of chaos, who stick with each other in that tunnel when the bottom has fallen out and you're really not sure that you can forgive again, that you can stay committed to each other, that maybe it'd just be easier to start over. But to go through that tunnel of chaos, on the other side of the tunnel, why go through it? Because on the other side is greater intimacy. And that's what we have hung in there was for that greater intimacy.
What she's talking about is there's fake intimacy and there's real intimacy. When you're dating, it's all fake intimacy. Even in early marriage, it's fake intimacy because you don't know how much you can trust your spouse with your deepest fears. And so there's still part of you that you hold back, even in early marriage. That's fake intimacy. everybody wants soul intimacy. That's real intimacy over here. How do you get from here to here? There's only one way. Go through the tunnel of conflict. Conflict is the essence. It's the only way you get to real intimacy. If you never have any conflict, you'll live at a shallow level. It means you're not dealing with the deepest differences in your marriage. And when you're in that tunnel, it's dark, it's black, it's loud, there's emotion, and you go, I don't like this, and everything in you wants to back out, say, let's just put a top on it and go back to fake intimacy. But if you'll hang in there in that, eventually you run out of energy and you run out of words and hurt and pain and tears, and you come out on the other side in true intimacy.
Doesn't happen automatically. You know, I mean, you have to choose, and you have to choose to not destroy each other in that tunnel.
And one of the things that you have to do in the crises of life that we've had to learn, and we have to, I say, it's not like we've learned it, we have to keep learning it, and that is never judge feelings, and never try to talk your spouse out of a feeling. A feeling is neither right nor wrong. A feeling is simply a feeling. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a feeling. Why is it when somebody else has a feeling that you don't have, you feel duty bound to talk them out of it? That's just dumb. Just because you don't feel it doesn't mean somebody else does. And you don't need to convince them that it's a wrong feeling. It's not right, it's not wrong, it's just a feeling. One of the things that caused Kay and I to grow closer and deeper after Matthew's suicide, and during these 18, 19 months of pain, dark days, is that I made the decision, and Kay made the decision, that we were just gonna be there in each other's feelings and not try to talk each other out of them. So if one of us felt angry, the other was angry with them, felt the anger too. If we felt grief, we both felt grief at the time. If we both felt confusion, we just sit in the confusion. And we don't try to talk each other out of feelings. And when you don't really feel the way they're feeling, you do what Kay has done a lot. And she just kind of reaches out and just touches me and grabs my hand. And just in that moment, it's going, maybe she doesn't even say, yeah, I'm feeling it. It just means,
I'm with you.
I'm with you.
I'm with you.
I'm with you. That's a big deal.
That's one of the greatest gifts that you can give in a relationship.
Yeah.
Is to be with the other person in, as Rick says, in their feelings, whatever it is they're feeling, but to be with them in those feelings. And in the winter of a relationship that you're in, to get through it, you can make that decision to be with your husband or your wife. You know, there's one other thing I want to say as we close. For those of you in your, a lot of you are in your 20s or early 30s or maybe younger than that, we've noticed that maybe you're afraid. We've talked to a lot of people in their 20s and 30s, and they're actually afraid to get married. Terrified. Yeah. Maybe you've seen your own family fall apart, maybe lots of people that you know that said that they were going to love each other for the rest of their lives and they didn't, and you're worried that you don't have what it takes to last in a marriage 60, 75 years. What if you fail? What if it falls apart? What if you make all these promises and then you can't keep them? And you just get scared to jump in, scared to actually commit in a relationship. And we want to tell you, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Marriage is hard work, but marriage is the greatest picture, as Rick has already shared, of God's love for us. We have the opportunity, not only for ourselves, but to a watching world who our marriages can give the picture to them of this is what it's like for Christ to love his church, and that profound spiritual nature of the relationship. Don't deprive the world and yourself of marriage because you're afraid. You have a church that cares about you. You have a church that will support you. You have a church that will pray for you. So you can be absolutely certain that we are going to pray for you in your relationships and in your marriages. And we ask that you pray for us because we are two imperfect people who need your prayers. But I mostly just wanted to say just that little, don't be afraid. Marriage is worth the effort, and it is the best thing. I'm glad. I can say it in the last service. I was afraid if I said it in all the other services, I'd cry too much, but I can say it in this one. I'm not the same person that I was. Being with you has changed me into a much better person than I would have ever been on my own. And through the rough times, through the hard times, and there have been plenty of those, and there's been sadness, so much sadness in this last year. But I'm grateful that God has used you to change me. I don't know that I would have liked the person that I was. You have made me a better person, and I love you so much.
Well, and when I was teaching that point about the number one tool God uses in your life to make you like Jesus is your spouse, there was a big picture in my mind because I knew who it was in my life. Because let me just talk to each of you as a different group. Some of you grew up in homes and the marriage didn't last. And it brought a lot of pain to you, and I'm sorry. You make the decision that you're going to break the cycle, that you're going to start a new legacy for your family name, that you are going to make it, and that your children are going to make it, because divorce is not going to be an option for you. Maybe you were in a marriage and it failed. You know what? We love you. We're grateful for you. There's grace in this place. And what matters is not where you've been. What matters is the direction of your feet right now. If you are not married, I want to ask you to make a commitment that when I marry, it's for life. It's not as long as we both shall love. It's not until it gets hard. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to walk out of this marriage, or how many times Kay wanted to walk out of this marriage. And I'm so glad we didn't. Because when you're in that pain, all you can think about is, I am in so much pain right now, and you have no idea how many other people it's going to affect. If Kay and I had separated in those early years of marriage and we just said, this isn't worth it, it's just too much work, it's too hard, you wouldn't be sitting here right now. There would be no Saddleback Church. There would be no 40,000 people baptized who found Christ in this church. There would be no purpose-driven life. There would be no peace plan. The one simple decision that she or I could have made could have affected literally millions of other lives. You don't know how your decision will affect somebody else. So it's not about you. You got to think about your commitments. And I would say, if you're not married, say, I'm going to make a commitment. I don't care how bad it gets. It's not an option. We're going to work it. We're going to work through if it kills us. It nearly did us several times. But I'm so glad. I will tell you this. If you're in marriage, make a commitment to stay in that marriage. It really is worth it. The joy that comes from a long-term relationship, the joy of growing old with somebody that you know, now I'm going to cry, deeply, perfectly, imperfectly, but intimately, the strength that it gives you. I have been able to handle enormous amounts of stress because I was married to this woman. And what she gave to me gave me the ability to juggle 22 balls at the same time and accomplish an enormous amount of things in my life because we did it as partners, as a team. I will say one of the things that, and I'll close with this, that Kay and I had that a lot of people didn't get is we grew up in stable marriages. Kay's parents were married 60 years before her daddy died. My parents were married 53 years before my mother died. And I'll always be grateful to my parents for staying together because my mom and dad got married in World War II, and after they had only been married 3 months, my dad was shipped out in World War II to the South Pacific, where he was gone for the next 2 years. And in that, he was in Guadalcanal, and he was in the Solomon Islands, and he was in a lot of hand-to-hand, even knife combat. And he came back from that war a different man. And when he came back, my mom could have said, you're not the guy I married, because the war changed my dad. You're not the guy I married. But my mom made the decision to stick with it. And I'm a result. And then our marriage is a result. And you and this church are a result. None of that would have happened if my mom had walked out on that marriage. So I'm begging you as your pastor to not be afraid of marriage, to go in it with eyes wide open, be willing to do the hard part, because the good part is so much better when you do the hard part instead of just giving up. Does that make sense? That makes sense. All right, I think we ought to pray, and I want us to pray, okay, I want you to pray for two different groups of people. I want you to pray for all of the couples that are here that are married, and then I want you to pray for everybody here who says, I do not have the gift of singleness. I really do want to be married. Okay.
All right. Father, I pray right now for the singles in our church, for those who want to be married, who are looking forward to that at some point in their lives. God, you know what fears they might have, what anxieties, what trepidation. But Father, I ask that you would give them a clear picture of a marriage, not unrealistic, not the Fabio novel kind of stuff, but of real men and real women who choose to enter deeply into each other's lives, to allow themselves to know and be fully known. And that from that union, God, you would produce a family and stability in our society and in our church, and that they would be accurate reflections of your love for us. So I pray that for all the single men and women in our church. And I pray for those marriages. I pray for those that are in that spring season of busyness, and they may be like ships passing in a night. God, give them wisdom to stop a little bit, to pause, to look for intentional ways to reconnect, to say that you matter to me and our marriage matters. I pray for those in the summer season, God. Things are going well, and we're so grateful for that. May they be wise enough to bank and plant and send down their roots for the harder times that are yet to come. And for those, Lord, who are in that fall season of change, big changes, give them the ability to adjust, to make the needed adjustments that have to happen so that they can thrive. And for all those millions of places, God, where we're not going to change, and we're kind of stuck, and we're just who we are, but that we would lovingly accept each other and not hold out unrealistic expectations, but stop the fights over things that don't really matter. God, I pray for those who are in winter, as Rick and I are. There's been loss, there's been hurt, there's been wounding. Holy Spirit, would you blow a warm fire of comfort and strength and peace and healing over broken hearts. God, we offer to you as a church our marriages, our relationships, and may they bring glory to you, Jesus Christ. And I pray this in your name. Amen.
Amen. We love you guys. Love you.
Let's go.